Welcome to Hindu Sanskruti with Vaishali Shah. I'm your host, Harleen Jabal. Namaskar, Vaishali.
Namaskar, Harleen.
Today's episode's topic is symbols and sampradaya. Let's begin with what is the importance of the various symbols that you have in Hinduism or Sanatan Dharam?
I'm sure you must have noticed that we have various uh, symbolic representation of either gods or for cultural point of view or for any other significance. Somehow India must be having the largest number of symbols all across the country for various reasons, I'm sure. They got developed over the period of time, right from Vedic Kal, which we call it as from Satyug, and from that time till now, we have various symbols and we have so many iconic things which are part of our life and which are integral part, and that is how one can identify us as a Hindu. So, for example, the best and the most important is tilak or the bindi. Generally, ladies who are married or even who are not, they put bindi on the forehead, and this is something which is amazing the world, that why do you do that? What is the reason and what is the significance? But bindi or the tilak is, is actually placed on the center of our forehead, and that is considered to be the center of knowledge. That is also the place from where we want to invoke our consciousness. All our spiritual uh, strength and their center point is that center. And by putting bindi or applying any tilak, we are trying to identify and invoke that spiritual aspect of our body into something more. And that is the reason we do tilak or bindi. There are various types of tilaks which are uh, basically placed by different followers. For example, the Vaishnav sect would do a tilak which is very similar to U,
Okay.
a sharp U. Then there is Shiv Panthi. They do 3 lines on the top, and then they in the center they put kanku or chandan or whatever, 3 dots they do it in the center. Their point is that it is 3 Trinity Devta, as in Vishnu, Brahma and Mahesh. That is the reason they put 3 line. It also signifies that we have 3 guna: Rajas, Tamas and Satvik.
Okay.
So it signifies those 3 guna. Also, when we go to down south, there are many other sects like Lingayat and all. They have different tilak, little different than other Shaiv Panthi. So you can imagine that even in one place or one symbol, there are so many variations.
The most noted, or the one that is very popular and easily seen, happens to be a swastika. Explain a little bit more about the swastika and where did it come from, or what is this swastika in Sanatan Dharam?
Swastika is actually the oldest symbol and maybe the second most important in Hindu culture, the first being Om. It means that it brings the fortune in the house, because in any auspicious ceremony we do have swastika placed at the entrance of the house. So, and it has a typical style of putting it up, you know, it's kind of Z in one direction and Z in opposite direction, the simplest way of explaining. And then there are 4 dots in that 4 area. So, the 4 bent arms represents 4 fold of life. Like in first episode I had explained that we have 4 purusharth, as in 4 stages of life, which is dharma, artha, kam and moksha, which means that we have to balance our life into this 4 section of our total lifestyle. Then it also means Mooladhara chakra, which means the center of consciousness at the base of spine, and that is the reason the swastika is placed in that way. Even in Buddhism, it has its own significance, like it is considered to be the footprint of Buddha. In Jainism, it is believed that the emblem of seventh Tirthankar was the symbol of reincarnation. In Jainism, it is believed to be the emblem of their seventh Tirthankar and also the symbol of reincarnation. So, the same swastika was accepted by various sects or the belief system which originated in India. Best example is whenever there is Graha Pravesh, as in the new house if you have bought, and or there is Diwali. So, that is the time when we want to do it, and we want to create the auspiciousness through that symbol.
Then coming to Om, what is Om and how is it chanted? Is there any specific way and time?
Om is actually the sound of universe.
Okay.
If we try to get out of the peripheral of this earth and be in the space, you hear some voice, and that voice is Om.
Okay.
Which is something which sages and the rishis had understood thousands of years back, and from that Om, all the scriptures and other knowledge and other sound came into existence. So, right now the sound travels with the help of air, right, and in the universe the sound exists on its own. So, because now we understand everything with the help of sound, we obviously want to know the source of the sound.
Yes.
So, the Om, that particular sound, is the source of the every sound which we have in this world. Om is made up of 3 Sanskrit letters, which is A, U and Ma. It signifies 3 periods of time, 3 states of consciousness and the entire existence. So, when I said A is like waking up the state or Virat or the Vishwa, because that is where the whole thing originated. U or U is the dreaming state of Hiranyagarbha or Tejas, which means that that is a state when the earth is not moving or the universe is not moving. So, it is a sleeping mode in a common man's language. U is the dreaming state of Hiranyagarbha, means universe ka dreaming state. Ma is a sleeping state of Ishwar and Pran. Pran means the life conscious which we have. The symbol is actually a sacred symbol representing Brahman also, because when Brahma was in the mode of creating the nature and the universe, he also created this sound. Brahma himself to be considered incomprehensible without this symbol, because it is mandatory to pass the sound from one place to another or one human to another, and it is an important aspect of our life. It also represents Nirgun and Sagun aspect of God. Nirgun means unmanifested, which we cannot formless, which we cannot see, and formless, and manifest is the formed one of the universe.
So, is it chanted at specific times or a number of times?
Yes, when we want to get into meditation mode, we believe that by chanting Om, we can create that vibration which can synchronize our body, mind and soul, and it creates a different kind of cosmic vibration around us also. So, then we start thinking universality of our being, because generally we are into ourselves and we just think about us and as a physical body. So, when we chant Om, we open up the chakras, we open up our senses, and we start receiving the positive vibrations from the universe and from the nature around us. The momentary silence between each chant becomes palpable, because that is how you switch from one energy to another energy. The mind moves between the opposites of sound and silence until the sound ceases into our heart. So, Om is also a mystical or sacred symbol for Jains and Buddhists, because in any sacrifice done by Vedic priest, they start with Havan or any prayers with Om, and even for Jains, their prayers would start with Om.
Then Vaishali, what is known as Rudraksh? What is that?
Rudraksh is a very unique a form of nature which is grown in a tree, Rudraksh tree. And it is believed that it is the tear of Shiv, because when Brahma created Shiv or created Rudra, he was in tears that why I am being born. So then that tears dropped on the earth, and from there the tree came into existence, and then that is how it bears the fruit of Rudra. As per one legends, it is believed that once Devas went to Lord Shiv and requested him to fight with two mighty asuras and rescued them. But Shiv, with his open eyes, contemplated for over 1,000 years, and after a prolonged length, uh, when he winked his eyes, the tears came from his eyes and it fell on the earth, and that's how the tree came into the existence. The reason why we wear Rudraksh is it is believed it can help us to give us moksha
Okay.
and free us from the cycle of life and death. But there are rules why you should and how you should wear Rudraksh. If you wear Rudraksh mala or Rudraksh in your hand, or have Rudraksh in your pocket, you can't have liquor, as in no alcohol, no meat, no onion garlic, and no tamasic nature food, because then you lose the vibration and the importance of that Rudraksh.
Earlier, you've mentioned bindi and you've mentioned tilak, but there are quite a few other wearables that are seen in the Sanatan Dharma. Can you give some more example and their significance?
Yes, for example, all the married women wear Mangal Sutra, and she puts sindoor on the forehead. So, which is another way of making somebody believe that she is married. That's a one way of seeing it. The next is because it's a black sacred thread which is being given to her by her husband, she wears it as a mark of respect.
Okay.
And it is also believed to be a sacred thing for a married woman to have. Then sindoor again, because our forehead is believed to be the place of knowledge. You know, in certain communities they have this yagnopavit, which is a white thread which is being worn by a male child when his education starts. So it's a very traditional way of initiating a child into education. So that is called yagnopavit, and there is a proper vidhi to have that yagnopavit, to wear it. Then you must have seen many men wear dhotis in the temple. So certain outfits are part of our culture. They are being worn because we want to, first of all, they are part of our culture, and that is how they are being worn. Then you must have seen even the sari. It becomes symbol in itself.
Yes.
Especially when you go out in other countries, when you wear a sari, one easily can understand and imagine that she must be an Indian or a Hindu woman. Then we have women wearing bangles.
Yes.
This is another symbol of a married woman, and it's part of Shringar. It's an important part of Shringar. Similarly, we have Kada in Sikhism as well. So that has its own significance of wearing it.
Yes.
Then have you seen sadhus having a dand or a stick? Yeah, so that is another symbol or a representation of his vow or his commitment that he has taken sannyas and he is going to stick to that. So you will find many such dandi swami in various sampradaya. So this is another symbol which becomes very important for those who take sannyas and want to continue and pursue that.
So when you mention sampradaya, how many are they and why do you have that many?
In last 2000 years, many spiritual gurus came to uplift the spiritual aspect of people. They wanted to share the knowledge of scriptures. They wanted to remove many misconceptions, unnecessary practice, many superstitious beliefs which we had. So that is how they created a sort of center or a belief system which we call it as sampradaya. and it was required to do it. Maybe before 2000 years, maybe it wasn't that much important. As we got attacked by many invaders, and we were criticized by many other believers, we were attacked by internally many forces. So that is the reason these gurus thought that they need to be more approachable. They need to nurture the society with little bit more stringent rules, so that they don't go haywire and start committing mistakes which are not required. So that is how all these sampradayas came. So the oldest in recent times is Shankaracharya ji, who created this Math and gave the theory of Sanatan Dharma, and he had his own belief of Shiv, and he created many scriptures. So they again gave another philosophy of bhakti, considering Krishna or Vishnu as the main deity. They also gave a particular seva prakar, because it was very difficult for people to go to the temple. Temples were under attack, they were looted by the invaders. There was no way out for people to get connected with the spiritual. There was no other way for people to go and pray.
Then what is called in akhada?
Akhadas are the centers which are created by these gurus to protect their properties, their centers, their people. In some akhadas, they even have arms. People, think that why spiritual people have to have arms, but they are the symbolic way of saying that we are here to protect you. You know that many of our gods have their own weapons. Okay. Ram is always with arrow, Krishna is with Sudarshan Chakra. So many other believers criticize that. But frankly, we consider those entities as gods who protected us, who worship, who gifted us, certain boons, and who helped us out to elevate. We don't accept someone who went out on a rampant killing and to establish his faith. We don't consider that as a god. We neither consider that person as a god who died himself and he could not save his followers.
Yes.
So our concept of God is very clear, that God is supposed to save us. Okay. And the weapons they carry are the symbolic way of saying that I'm here to protect you. So similarly, akhadas follow the same principle, that they have they do puja of various weapons, especially on Vijayadashmi. They also ensure their people are protected, and that is how so many akhadas came. I can give you a few examples that there are Shaiv and Sannyasi sampradayas, and they have 8 akhadas. Then there is Vaishnav sampradayas, they have 7 akhadas. And Udasin Sampradaya has 2 akhadas. Similarly, there are other sampradayas who have got their own akhadas.
Going back to, you have given the symbols of a married woman, but what about if she becomes a widow or an unmarried girl? Then are there some symbols she's wearing or meant to wear?
Unmarried women also would wear something in the neck, in the ears. They put bindi, they have bangles, they can wear rings. You name the jewelry, and we have in India, as in earlier times we were loaded with jewelry, and we used to wear less clothes because there was not requirement of the cloth. So for unmarried women, those things are still there. The only difference is, as I said, is Mangal Sutra and the sindoor and the bangles. For a widow in the new generation, or maybe in the last recent few years, it became very, very bad. They were deprived of clothes, food, any other shringar or any other lifestyle. And somehow, because society was so rigid, and it became rigid because of the invaders. Earlier it wasn't that bad, but then widows were suffering a lot. They were not given any rights and all that. But in current times, I think it's getting better. People have understood that they also have a life and they can, move on, whether they remarry or they pursue something else in their life. But they have definitely full rights to enjoy.
So here's to independence and progress and further knowledge in another episode. This is Hindu Sanskriti with Vishali Shah. I'm your host, Harleen Jabal.